Well, welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. You're watching me play my second favorite pinball machine of all time, the Machine Bride of Pinbot. And you're probably thinking to yourself, we've seen this, but also, why does it look a little grody? Like it's not the high quality pinball arcade version that I was showing before. That's because what we're showing off on this video is my way that I used to play pinball on Vol, my arcade machine. I've done quite a few videos about it and all the different games that I've played on it, but I never really showed the pinball capability of Vol, and I thought, well, you know what, I need to kind of lead up to this for something. In addition, oh, I've got her voice activated. There she goes. But in addition to this, okay, you see how her face change was very choppy. This is on Vol, which is a rather old computer, and so obviously compared to what the PlayStation 4 or even the PlayStation 3 can offer, heck, even the Vita version, this is pretty chunky and crummy looking. But I'm showing you this because this is something that is kind of in the regular conversation right now, so I thought I would just show off how Vol is capable of playing pinball machines. And some of the pinball machines I really wish had been released, especially on either Pinball Arcade or now that Zen Pinball owns the license to the Williams stuff and Bally. There's a lot of pinball tables that I've been waiting for patiently, and they've never come out. All we get are re-releases of the Pinball Arcade stuff. Now, in addition to her face change being a little chunky looking, you might notice that the ball isn't moving terribly smoothly. That's partially my camera. I've tried my best to combine it so that we get not only a lack of flicker on screen, but also she's able to, like, the ball movement is somewhat fluid. But on the computer here, it does actually run a little slow. Some of the tables I'm going to show you, though, they look really good in real, like with your own eyeballs. The camera's just not quite picking them up with a good frame rate, so we're just going to have to live with that. Anyway, what are we playing here, or how are we playing the Machine Bride of Pinbot without it being the Pinball Arcade? Well, what this is a program that has been around for a long time called Visual Pinball, and it's actually combined with another program that I'll have to go into with a little bit of detail called V-PinMAME, I think it is. MAME being Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator, just like Vol is. Vol is a MAME machine. And this program, or the combination of both of these programs, allows me to play old pinball machines way back in the time before any of the licensing would make this possible as a commercial product, which now both Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball have made possible, so it's really not a big deal anymore. So, why am I showing you Visual Pinball? Well, there's a new item out there that has been getting a bit of attention from folks called it's from a company called Toyshock. Ooh, nice skill shot. And Toyshock have released this collection of Gottlieb tables in like an arcade one-up little toy pinball machine. There's about 12 of them in this machine. And it's able to play, I guess I've heard some people say it's probably the iOS or Android version of the Pinball Arcade with these Gottlieb tables, and it plays them in a little pinball machine. Now, it's designed for kids, it's kind of a toy, it is from a company called Toyshock after all, and this machine is really kind of nice looking. I mean, I don't want one. Why don't I want one? Well, it is kind of a low-end, like aimed at kids kind of a toy thing. It has its flaws. Just check on YouTube. A lot of people have been talking about it. How it's got this giant bezel around the edges. The 12 machines in it are okay, and the camera or the screen that's on there, it's not the greatest. It's a little floaty for the physics, but a lot of people are liking the look of this thing. I don't have any interest in it myself because I've got pinball on Vol. So I'm going to exit out of the Machine Bride of Pinbot here and show you. If I hit escape, I can actually just quit to the editor of this, well, that's my control panel, of Visual Pinball. You can see up in the corner there, that's what it says, Visual Pinball. I'm now currently playing the Bride of Pinbot. And these, this grid and all of this stuff here Visual Pinball, from what I gather now, there's probably experts who are maybe watching this because of the Toyshock interest. A lot of people are saying, well, why don't you just make your own Visual Pinball machine? This program, I think, allowed you to create your own pinball machines. You could lay down bumpers and flippers and gates and, edit your own. And people found a way to actually put in the code or the ramps or the information of actual pinball machines like Bride of Pinbot just now, and you could play it. And I've got in here a number of other pinball tables that I'm just going to show you. Let me close this guy, and we'll just pull up another one. How about, let's go with Space Invaders. Now, if anybody's seen Space Invaders, this is not the arcade machine from Taito, the famous original 79. This is actually the giant pinball machine that has the, you will sometimes run into these errors, by the way, with this. This is, yes, I should actually, before I play Space Invaders, I'm going to show a little bit more behind the scenes how Visual Pinball and PinMame work together. But you occasionally, at least back when I first put all this stuff on Vol, you would run into a number of errors with the different ROMs that you had to find. I'm going to show you how this is all set up, but do not ask me to do a tutorial on it because it was a real nightmare and I never want to have to set this up again. I really hope Vol never dies because I don't want to be rebuilding this stuff. So you may occasionally in this video see these errors, but if I just hit OK, it will still allow me to play. There's Visual PinMame. That is the one that runs the DMD display and the rule set and that kind of stuff behind the scenes, whereas Visual Pinball gives us the actual screen and the flippers and the whole 9 yards. So this is Space Invaders, which from this viewpoint you can't see it, but it has that very obviously H.R. Giger inspired back glass. And it's a wide body, and it's pretty cool. I don't normally go for ones with 2 sets of flippers, which this one has, but it's one of those iconic pinball machines you always see at shows, and they never released it, and I wouldn't mind getting this one, actually. Maybe there's some licensing issues. Maybe Taito finally told Bally, hey, you can't be using that, or maybe the folks from H.R. Giger's family had decided, hey, you're using our image. We need to get a cut of that virtual pinball pie. So maybe there's reasons you can't do this, but let me put in a quarter and we'll start up a game. And I'll show you. This is Space Invaders, and I can play it, and it's really very cool. It's got the 2 sets of flippers. Again, I'm not a big fan of those, but like I prefer, honestly, I kind of like flippers like on Bride of Pinball, where you've just got the 2. Ironic, really, given that the Black Knight, darn it, Black Knight 2000 is my all-time favorite pinball machine. I've done a video about that as well. And that one has the standard kind of 2 flippers down below, and up on the raised play table there's actually another flipper up there. So you'd be surprised to realize I don't really like that design, nor this one. I like just 2 flippers. I'm a very simple pinball player. But at least I get to try out these different types of machines. And this one is really well done. I'm hoping now on my video it's probably not going to be, darn it. It's probably not going to be too easy to see the ball because it's a darkened kind of a field and the ball is moving around up there. It does look pretty smooth to my eyes. I hope the camera at least gives it a decent amount of frame rate. But look at this, like I can just sit here and play this machine, no problem at all. And this was my way of doing it way back in the day. How do I handle things like being able to nudge the ball? Well, I can actually, I can actually just use the joystick. Now, in my talking about Vol, I've mentioned that it has an X-Arcade controller attached to the front, which actually has side flippers on it, little buttons on the side that I typically, for MAME, I use that to escape out of the game and go back to the menu, or I use the other flipper to hit pause, so that during a game it doesn't actually trigger or go off. But in this case, I've got them mapped to the actual flippers. So let's do another game here, and we'll show you how it works. How do I launch the ball? I actually just use the 2 buttons on the side of the X-Arcade controller, and I just launch. It's straightforward. Let's put it in a quarter. And we'll just get the ball to load up. There it is. And I just hold down the button, and away it goes. So that's one thing. Then I use these flippers on the side here to just do my flipping action. Now, how do I tilt? Or not tilt, but how do I nudge? Well, I actually use the joystick. It's a little bit tricky. Like, I'm kind of used to doing this now because with the PlayStation 3 and 4 version of Pinball Arcade, I got in the habit of, oh, I can tell the ball's going to go down the center. I will quickly, with my thumb, reach over and try and hit the thumbstick and make it at least nudge the ball in a direction that's going to maybe save it. Not easy to do. I mean, obviously this doesn't compare to the real hardware. But even that new Toyshock Pinball machine, that doesn't work. You have to have a pair of buttons for nudging anyway. Let's just see if I can get this back up there. Oh, there we go. But yeah, this is a pretty cool alternative and a great way for me to actually play Space Invaders, because I can't. Ah, I should have nudged. All right, let's show you another one of my favorite tables. This is a very cool one from Bally in the 70s called Future Spa. And this is really well designed. This one's got all the instructions down in the corner there, so I can just do my controls. I mean, I've set this all up, but really nice that the developer of this actually took the time to give you a little pop-up menu. Great stuff. Now, wait till you check this one out. Fire the ball. Another wide body, this one. A little bit similar sound effects to Space Invaders. If I can get those gates. Ooh. Oh, darn it. Again, should have nudged. All right. Get back again. I want to get that one with the arrow up there. No. There we go. Got it. You have to remember, when I did this, it was seemingly impossible that we would ever get the ability to play pinball machines, like properly licensed, real classic pinball machines, ever. What Pinball Arcade, what Farsight managed to achieve was a real miracle, in my opinion. I mean, how did they get all of the folks at the time, for Williams and Bally and Gottlieb and Stern, and all of them, how did they manage to convince them, yeah, give us your intellectual property rights so that we can actually make these tables available to people? And it was great, and I loved it. But I have to admit, since Williams lost the, or since Farsight lost the license for Williams, oh, nearly got it. Should have nudged. Oh no, definitely should have nudged. Ever since they lost the license, though, and it went over to Zen, Zen's done a much better job with the physics, but they just keep releasing the same tables, which is a bit annoying. Okay, now let me just show you. I'm going to give you an example here of how this is all set up. So here's the folder structure, and I'm not going to go into this too deeply because this was a nightmare to set up. Yes, Vol is an XP machine, by the way. I know people will be yelling at me for that, but he never connects to the internet. I've got him tweaked, his performance exactly where I want him. So I'm okay with an XP machine that has no connection to the internet anymore. So anyway, what you needed back to get all this stuff working was a whole pile of stuff. You needed these VPT files, which used to be available on various forums. They're several megabytes in size. Then you had to also get things like a VBS file, Visual Basic, and you needed to configure a whole bunch of stuff to make, for example, if I was going to do, there's Machine Bride of Pinbot. Actually, let me find one that's a little more, well, do I want to go with that? Yeah, okay, so Machine Bride of Pinbot, which was back up here, you would basically need to point to the machine, the game itself, and also these VBS files. So you had to do a whole bunch of tweaking. In addition to that, that's just to get Visual Pinball working. You also needed to get the ROMs for Visual, for VPin MAME, which I believe I've got over here. Down in here. Yeah, then you had to get all the ROMs, which are the rule sets and the DMD display working, all of that stuff, and then you had to tweak that all within the program and make it work. It was a real pain in the butt, and not one that I recommend to anybody. But when it's done, my goodness, you can get some really nice games. This is Roundup, which is a Wild West style game. Let me show you this one. Again, this may not be coming out very well on the camera, but it really runs smoothly and I really like it. Yes, unfortunately, oh, I should have nudged. Yeah, unfortunately, this is such a pain to get this configured that it's really not something I'm ever going to do a tutorial on or any of that kind of stuff. Oh, there's one of those, what do you call those kickers at the bottom that stop the ball from going down there? Yeah, it's got that in there. But before Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball did their thing, this was my only way to play stuff. And this is where I discovered how much I love the Machine Bride of Pinbot or Black Knight 2000 or my number 3, which I'm actually going to lead into. Oh, it went down the side gate. I'm going to do a separate video about my 3rd favorite pinball machine just to round that whole series off. Cool. I like that. I really, really like this table. Now, would I get that Toyshock machine? Until today, I was thinking, no way in heck, I'm not interested. But I was listening to a podcast, the Blahcade podcast, where they talk a lot about digital pinball. It's typically Pinball Arcade and or Zen Pinball discussion, but they dabble in other areas, one of which being this new Toyshock machine. And they said something on one of the more recent podcasts that kind of interested me. They said that anybody who thinks, oh, this is the first version of this toy, it is a toy, who thinks that, you know, oh, okay, well, then they're going to get the license for Williams, and then it's going to be a much better experience, one that we want with better tables. They say not going to happen. Turns out it is actually a Far Side Studios product, and as a result, those guys have lost the Williams license, and as a result, it's only going to be Gottlieb, and they only have the right to those 12 plus 12 more. And I've looked at the list of what's not on that toy. Doesn't look all that great, to be honest, so forget it. I don't think I would get... Oh, cool, it's even got a little high score thing there. Yeah, I don't think I would get anything... I wouldn't get that machine, or at least I was thinking I wouldn't until I heard this podcast. And now I'm like, well, there are 5 tables out of the 12, but I don't really have the room, and I already have this on Vol. Now, I'm going to fire up my favorite machine on Vol that is not really my 3rd favorite pinball machine, but it's a special mention. So this is Matahari, which is an old electromechanical machine, and my goodness, I really, really love it. Let me fire it up here. Again, that ball may not look terribly good on camera, but it runs very, very smooth to my eyes. It's just the camera's fault. But this is the kind of stuff that I used to play and love the heck out of and think, yeah, this is great. And as much as I enjoy what Pinball Arcade and Zen Pinball have brought for years now, I love the 100, 200 tables that existed out there. But I am kind of every once in a while, when there's a new announcement for new stuff for Zen Pinball, now that they've got the license, I keep hoping to myself, okay, are we going to see some of these other tables, some of this stuff that I'm really hoping to see? No, it hasn't happened yet, so I'll just have to keep playing on Vol then, I guess. Anyway, this video is getting long enough, and I'm just going to call it here. On the subject of call-outs, though, I will say that toy pinball machine thing, I got a friend who loves the heck out of pinball. He's got a couple of units himself, like real pinball machines. Doug, if you're watching this, I will expect you to buy that toy, because that is so up your alley. It's got Haunted House as its theme, and I know you love that machine. So, yeah, get that thing so that I can try it out and see if I want to get it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. This is the Visual Pinball / VPin MAME connection. A lot of people have got way better, higher-end versions of this, my caveat to anybody who's thinking of doing this on a higher end computer than Vol, look for a lot of expense. I mean, in order to get these, never mind all the hassle that this was to set up, to get some of the sort of more interesting games like, I don't know, Theater of Magic or any of the ones that you see on the Pinball Arcade that have got more than just this electromechanical vibe going for them. Anything of like the 80s or beyond that have got lots of toys spinning or that kind of thing. You know, Tales of the Arabian Nights, for example. You're going to need a really beefy machine to make that look nice. Some people have. They've got really amazing looking setups. But yeah, that's going to cost money. And then to get an animated backglass, that's going to cost more money. And the big thing, the absolute killer that I have learned from this experience with this program, if you think you can just throw together a cheap little PC like this one into a box and make it into a pinball machine, great, yes, but you are not going to be able to play some of those really higher end, more complex games, because anytime you've got spinning toys or anything extra going on, you're going to have a slowdown occur. And the big one to watch for, multi-ball. I keep saying this to people who have made, you know, a Raspberry Pi and stuck it into a little shoebox and made it into a pinball machine. That looks great, that's awesome, and it plays fantastic. But how is it when you have to get into multi-ball? Because that is a CPU killer right there. You need a high-end PC in a high-end box with a big screen, and you're talking, once you add up the price tag of all that, you're basically talking about, why don't you just get a real pinball machine? Because that's the level that we're at. And that's what Toyshock, this new machine, it's not intended to be that caliber. It's just supposed to be a toy. It's for kids. That's why it's got the giant bezel around the edges. It's $400. It's kind of cool. I don't think I want it. Doug, please get it so that I can then see if I want to get it. But yeah, that's where I am with this Visual Pinball and PinMame on Vol. All right, gonna stop there. Until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.